Hello, my name is Grace Winura, and this is Horse Pro, the channel dedicated to empowering the amateur horse enthusiast and supporting the budding professional. Today, we are going to talk about spring and wet weather turnout, or the lack thereof. Now, I know when winter, especially in areas where there are four seasons, the winter has been long and hard, the snow starts to melt, everyone rejoices, spring is on the way. Or if you're in a climate where it's been hot and dry, or cool and dry, but no snow, but now it's starting to rain and rain and rain. I have been a boarder and a student long before I was a trainer and a coach. So I know what it's like to have spring come and think, oh my gosh, my horse should be going outside. It's so beautiful. They've had so many days in the winter where maybe they haven't gone out because it's been icy or too cold or too snowy. And now I'd love for them to get outside. And you're looking at it and you think, but it looks wonderful. It can't be that wet. So I'm here to tell you, when I became a professional, I really understood, and suddenly I was responsible for so many other horses, other people's horses, responsible for the horses so that the people would have a great show season or just their health and well-being. The problem is, when the spring comes and wet weather comes, we run the risk of several factors with horses. Sometimes the fields are actually a little slicker. That means the top section, the top inch or so, may be thawed, but the bottom is not. So the horse, especially if it's shod, will break through the top layer, but then slide along the harder portion. So of course, we all live in terror because this could be a tendon injury, a soft tissue injury, a stifle pull, any of those things, a lost shoe. And now talking about lost shoes, if the footing isn't frozen that little inch deep and the horses actually puncture through and suck their leg up, again, tendon injury, lots of lost shoes. Now, fast forward, if you lose that shoe and you keep turning out, and now you lose another shoe, and then you lose another shoe, what happens is each time you lose that shoe and you're putting more holes into that hoof wall, you actually lose the strength of the hoof wall. Now, if your foot chips up because of that lost shoe, now you're having to put on a smaller shoe to keep it on. So the problem is, now, fast forward a few months, you're complaining that when you're at the show, the footing, you're jumping a lot, the horse seems a little less level perhaps on that foot, or one foot is smaller than the other. This has come from that earlier spring. So trainers want to avoid this. Now, I know clients think many times, oh, the trainers are being mean, they're being unfair to the horses, they just want their paddocks, to have lots of grass in the spring or in the summer. And oftentimes people are, trainers will say that, well, in order to have grass for the summer, we need to protect them in this wet weather climate. What they actually mean is every time you puncture a hole through, every time a horse slides across, yes, you are eroding the grass, and yes, you may have to reseed. However, now you have damaged footing that the horse could possibly injure itself on. So all those holes, there's no guarantee that they're going to fill in. So short of now people going through the paddocks, re-rolling them in the same wet weather, but now the tractor tires are just going to create punctures. So you see, they're trying to protect the paddocks, and that's what they might be saying. And yes, grass is partially it, but more to the point, those puncture holes, if they don't go away, your horse could fall in them. You wouldn't accept that in arena footing. So why would you put your horse into a situation where all summer they could possibly have holes that they could fall into that they themselves made in the spring? So sometimes, even though we want to turn out, trainers choose not to. And trust me, horses in stables where trainers and stable owners turn out regularly, if they do not turn out, that is not to the trainer or stable owner's advantage. It's actually actually more expensive to keep the horse in. Shavings are only second on the list, along with hay, in upkeep costs, second only to the mortgage or rent and labor. So the thing of it is, if you are actually experiencing a situation where your horse usually goes out, now it's not going out, you feel it's unfair because spring weather is here, trust me, the trainer would rather have the horse out. However, the trainer would rather have the horse safe and you mounted for the rest of the year rather than a horse standing in a stall the rest of the year because of a tendon injury. So they're choosing to do this because of safety, and trust me, it's more work for them. When they have a horse in, horses are often more a little fresh because they want to go outside. They're not going outside. Horses know it's spring. So the trainers are having to deal with horses maybe spinning in the stalls. They have to have more shavings. Maybe they have to be hand walked or lunged or arena turnout if that's something that, your stable does. So again, your trainer is not trying to be unfair to you or your horse. They're trying to safeguard you and your horse. Now you say, well, how can it safeguard me because the horse is fresher and now I have to deal with that? Well, the point of it is that they're trying to make it safe so that your horse can last all season and doesn't have an injury, thereby saving you costs and heartache with a horse that, let's say, cannot be ridden for a length of time or maybe gets injured to the point where it can't come back. And obviously all those, or lost shoes. Every time you lose a shoe and have to put one back on, someone has to go try to find it. Inevitably you don't find it because it's been sucked in the mud. Now you have to put a new shoe on. There are costs involved. So the trainer is looking out for you because they've experienced all these negatives in the past. Now, when you say to me, oh, but I think they're just doing it because they want the paddocks to look nice. Okay, that's fair enough. They're trying to make it so that all summer your horse has a level playing field, a level footing base, so that you actually have a safe base or floor that the horse can be on, and that it does have grass all season. And yes, it is costly to reseed. And guess what, folks? If they had to reseed, your horse couldn't be in the paddocks because it takes 21 days for that grass to take root. And even after 21 days, your horse can't go in the paddock because the shoots are so new, it would just shred it all over again. So even if you're thinking it's about look or having grass all summer, it's actually a very wise thing. So sometimes the short-term pain is for the long-term gain. Now, what can you do as a client? If you are a client who is unhappy because your horse is fresh, suck it up, Buttercup. Get there early. Walk your horse. Hand graze it if you need to outdoors. Be there early enough to lunge it. Maybe forego a lesson and say to your trainer, hey, I have some time. How about I hand walk some horses for you extra? How about I hand walk my horse or lunge it? Because I love my horse and I know it can't go out for safety reasons. So how about I go ahead and maybe give it some free time rather than ride it today, or give it some free time and then ride it. Again, you know what? If you were complaining, then you are part of the problem. You are not part of the solution. So why not be part of the solution? All of us have to undergo times where horses cannot go out, especially horses who are used to going out. I know it's a pain. But you know what? If you love that horse and you want to see that horse happy, and that horse where you stable cannot be turned out for purposes of poor weather, wet weather, icy weather, winter weather, whatever, the footing is too slick, the footing is too wet and deep, then you know what? It's up to you to get there early, or to be there an extra day, or to be there and forego a lesson and have your horse have, its own free expressive time. And you can talk to your trainer and you can arrange times and you can talk to them. Now, if you can't do that, then you are not a horse lover, you're a horse rider. And that's totally okay. But again, you have to recognize that, and then maybe you should arrange to have someone else do those things for you. Or still, you cannot complain because the trainers are still trying to do it for your safety and for the horse's safety. But again, try not to be part of the problem, be part of the solution. Now, I know sometimes the footing looks ready for horses to go out, but unless you have gone out and walked the entire paddock and you see the range and the dips and the valleys and where the footing is wet and where the footing is dry and where the slick patches might be, you really won't know whether those footings are dry enough. And sometimes one paddock may be dry enough, but other paddocks are not. And often if you turn out into that one paddock, now you're rotating horses, and sometimes people will have throwaway paddocks that are small that they'll turn out in that are throwaway paddocks. So when the weather finally gets a bit warmer and a bit less steep and the footing's a little safer, they'll turn out into it. Now, that's a great solution, but again, the farm would have to have time, space, energy. And then I've heard before people complaining that the paddocks are too small and now there's no grass in them. So again, sometimes there just isn't a way to win for those few weeks where the footing is a little bit too difficult. In this situation, if you are happy where you stable, you're happy with your coach, you're happy with your trainer, then this is one of those things you have to have belief in your trainer and belief in the stable owner that they are trying to safeguard your horse. It may make it a little inconvenient for you. You may have to take extra time. You may have to arrange for extra maybe days. You may have to do a buddy system with fellow clients in order to walk the horses more. That's a great idea. But why not do that and just survive that portion and be happy the rest of the year and know your horse is safe and sound? Again, this is Grace Wanyura. If you found any of this information to be of value, please hit subscribe and the like icon and hit the bell notification so that you'll get updates for any new videos.